Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Thursday, February 4th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. They are the questions being asked every day. When can I get my vaccine? What's taking so long? The issue of supply and demand is at the forefront of the vaccination rollout process that still causes great concern. We begin with KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman.
My appointment, I just got it.
Lloyd Moreland of Oceanside says when he looked for vaccination appointments this morning, he was surprised to see them for the Petco Park Superstation.
My problem is Oceanside, you can't get none. I couldn't get an appointment there, so I came down here.
This morning, there were thousands of appointments available at the downtown Superstation, which is run by UC San Diego Health with support from the county.
I've been checking online for the last week or so and kind of no appointments, and then just kind of on a whim this morning, I thought I was sitting there and I thought, I'll check one time just out of curiosity, and boom, it popped up and for an appointment at 11:30, and this was at like 10 o'clock.
As of yesterday, more than 100,000 total vaccinations have been given out just at this site.
With such a precious commodity, we do not want to waste a single drop.
Lydia Ikeda heads up operations here for UC San Diego Health. She says this site regularly does around 5,000 vaccinations per day. Right now, they're seeing some more seniors, and the gap in appointments this morning was quickly filled.
I think it just varies every day, depends on people's schedules, when they look online. We've put out tweets and messages through social media.
The county's vaccination dashboard shows around 300,000 people have gotten at least the first dose, but officials say there are more than 1 million San Diego seniors plus healthcare workers currently eligible.
We'd really love more supply because we can handle it.
But county officials have said that current vaccine deliveries are not keeping up with demand and they might have to scale back.
We're taking that on a day-to-day basis, so we're really scheduling only appointments that we know we can vaccinate. In addition, we're working closely with the state as well, and we hope to get more supply from the state because they see how much that we've been able to get in arms. So our burn rate is extraordinary. San Diego is setting records throughout the state.
The burn rate is how quickly the supply is used after it's delivered.
Our burn rate today is less than 7 days. We're getting delivery into arms as quickly as we can.
All 4 of the county-supported super sites hope to scale up to 5,000 vaccinations per day, but with officials not getting the amount of vaccines they hope for, that all could be delayed. Currently, all these sites require appointments that can be made through the county's website. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
The world's first single-dose coronavirus vaccine is one step closer to rolling out. Today, Johnson & Johnson filed an application with the Food and Drug Administration asking for emergency use authorization. Preliminary results show the single-dose formula is safe and offers strong protection against moderate to severe COVID-19. However, it didn't appear as effective as Pfizer and Moderna's 2 shots. An FDA panel will review the company's results. Another group of local workers is stepping forward, demanding they be moved up the vaccination chain. Union employees who clean up inside San Diego's main airport held a demonstration to voice their demands. KPBS's Eric Anderson has more.
They carried signs, wore purple shirts, but mostly remained socially distanced and silent. But they had a message to deliver. Give us the vaccine.
Most of our workers work here as janitors. The airport is really busy.
San Diego union official Genevieve Aguilar says union workers are at risk of contracting COVID every day. She says that's scary.
Just because by going to work, you're not going to come back. And you're not going to come back to home, to your family, and you're the only provider. And I think that's the most difficult part. It's scary moments. We're not asking for a lot. We're just asking to be alive. That's it.
The Service Employees International Union has 3,000 local members. They want the governor to move them up on the essential worker vaccine list. It's unclear if that'll happen because the vaccine guidelines are set at the national level. San Diego County Supervisor Nathan Fletcher says the county wants to make more shots available.
We don't know what the supply of vaccines will be. We also don't know what the demand on appointments will be, and so we can't predict when that will happen. But we started with healthcare workers. When we had slack in the system, we opened up to 75 and older. When we had slack in the system, we opened up to 65 and older. And once we have slack in the system, we will open up to that first tier of essential workers.
Right now, that tier does not include janitors and security guards at airports. This isn't the only protest for union members in California today. They're also rallying at LAX, Los Angeles Airport, and the airport in Oakland. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
A tense situation late this afternoon near a church preschool in the Claremont Mesa area. As many as 24 squad cars responded to a shooting and a gunman in the area around Claremont Mesa Boulevard, Claremont Drive, and Genesee. Good news, police say all the kids were evacuated and taken to a different location to be reunited with parents. SWAT officers have detained one man and they're searching to see if a second suspect may have been involved. One person was shot and wounded and is now hospitalized. Police have not said what sparked the incident, but are still investigating. Since the pandemic began, unemployment benefits in California have been interrupted by improper distribution and fraudulent claims. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer explains how state lawmakers plan to reform the system.
Assemblymember Lorena Gonzalez says the state's Employment Development Department has been grappling with numerous challenges, including bureaucratic inefficiencies, problematic vendor relationships, and widespread fraud. Gonzalez has proposed a bill called AB 74 to expand options for people to receive their benefits in forms other than the Bank of America debit cards.
The problem with everybody going through Bank of America, which we're seeing, is that if you're not a customer of Bank of America, they have no responsibility to be very accommodating to your concerns about your card being frozen or fraud or not receiving your card.
Gonzalez's proposed bill was just one of many brought to the table by 9 California Assembly members to reform the EDD.
They should continue to be able to have that direct deposit, cut out the middleman if they so choose. If they choose to have the Bank of America debit card, that's fine. And if they choose to have a paper check, they should be able to have that choice as well.
Since March of 2020, the Employment Development Department has processed more than 19 million claims and paid more than $114 billion in benefits. $11 billion went to people who didn't verify their identity, which the department says is likely fraud, and 4.1 million Californians may have to pay back some or all of their benefits they received due to a lack of eligibility screenings during the beginning of the pandemic.
We're going to take care of fraud. That's a long-term issue, but right now, people who are needing that money to pay their rent, to put food on the table, that is my number one concern.
The Assembly members agreed that a long-term solution to reform the EDD will require an update to the computer system, which currently uses technology from the 1980s. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
The Biden administration is facing challenges at home and abroad. Another 779,000 Americans filed for first-time unemployment benefits as lawmakers finalize a new stimulus bill. And President Biden delivered his first foreign policy address as commander-in-chief. Here's Nadia Romero with the latest from Washington.
America is back. Diplomacy is back.
President Joe Biden making his first foreign policy remarks at the State Department today.
We will repair our alliances and engage with the world once again.
As the Biden administration begins to lay out their agenda for addressing relations with both allies and adversaries.
We must meet the new moment, accelerating global challenges, from the pandemic to the climate crisis to nuclear proliferation.
The White House also emphasizing the need for economic relief at home.
Every action we take and our conduct abroad, we must take with American working families in mind.
As families across the country continue to struggle amid the unemployment crisis.
I love you too.
Unemployed mother of 3, Veronica Bedico, feeds her family by using government assistance.
I am a real person who had a real job, and now I need help so that I can provide for my children.
To help families like Bedico's, the Biden administration proposing a nearly $2 trillion COVID relief bill aimed in part at expanding unemployment benefits and food assistance. The Democratic-led Senate scheduled to vote on a budget resolution that will allow them to write and pass a package with a simple majority without needing a single Republican vote.
There's no doubt that some families are still struggling. This isn't finished. But our economy does not require another multi-trillion-dollar non-targeted Band-Aid.
In Washington, I'm Nadia Romero.
The U.S. House has voted to remove Georgia Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene from committees for spreading violent, racist rhetoric. 11 Republicans voted with Democrats to remove Greene from the Education, Labor, and Budget committees. Republican Congressman Darrell Issa was the only member of the San Diego delegation to vote against it. The CDC predicts the U.S. could reach 530,000 coronavirus deaths by the end of the month. At the same time, the agency is pointing to data showing it's safe to reopen schools even if teachers haven't been vaccinated. Mary Maloney has a closer look.
A dire prediction. The CDC forecasting COVID-19 deaths in the U.S. could rise to higher than 530,000 this month. Despite the grim outlook, the agency's director says increasing data suggests schools can safely reopen under the right conditions.
And that safe reopening does not suggest that teachers need to be vaccinated.
And the White House agrees.
The president believes schools should be open. Teachers want schools to be open. Families want schools to be open, but we want to do it safely.
This comes as many cities and states deal with growing pressure to return to classrooms. But some teachers and faculty are hesitant, concerned for the health of their students and their own. Experts say proper testing, social distancing, and ventilation have helped schools reopen successfully.
None of these measures are perfect, but remember that there's a risk of COVID to kids out in their community, and schools that do this well or get those risks down and deliver better education.
According to CDC guidelines, teachers should be next in line to get the vaccine, but it may take a while for most teachers to get their shots. In Washington, I'm Mary Maloney.
Governor Gavin Newsom said he agrees with the Biden administration that schools can reopen before teachers are vaccinated. But San Diego Unified School District's board president, Richard Barrera, disagrees. He said if leaders want schools to reopen, they need to focus on how to get vaccinations to teachers as soon as possible.
Rather than, get into a big fight about, whether or not teachers can come back before they're vaccinated, I think we should be putting our energy into figuring out how to accelerate the vaccines so that we can get our educators vaccinated so that they can return, which is what they want.
In addition to vaccinating teachers, Barrera said the county needs to see an overall decrease in case numbers before schools could reopen. Laws meant to protect students with disabilities can sometimes become a maze for families to navigate. In some districts, special education has become a highly contentious arena where parents and educators fight over what services a student needs. KPBS education reporter Joe Hong has the story of one family who took their fight to court.
Can you tell them your name?
Eli. Eli's parents say they knew right away that their child would have hearing problems. His dad, John Davenport, recalls how as a toddler, Eli held his plastic toy guitar right up to his ear to hear the noises it made.
He would sit when he was 1 year old, he would sit and he would lay his ear flush against it, what was blasting music, and he would just lay with his ear like that. And I tested it, I took it and I held it close to my ear and it hurts. It was obvious at that point that he had a problem.
Fortunately, Davenport and his wife, Farah Cherie, were able to put Eli in the Deaf and Hard of Hearing program for toddlers at San Diego Unified's Lafayette Elementary School in the Claremont Mesa neighborhood. But when Eli turned 3, he aged out of the program, and the district has denied him entrance into the full-day program ever since. For the past 2 years, Eli's parents, who are both physicians, have spent upwards of $30,000 to provide Eli with a patchwork of private services. But despite the advantage of being health experts with financial resources, they say Eli is still significantly behind where he should be. The pandemic has only made things worse.
He didn't meet their, what the district called their criteria for hearing impairment, and so they kicked him out when he was 3. But he should have remained in that school. If he had remained in that school, I think his speech would be far improved from where he is now. There's no question it would be.
Eli's parents say they have no clue why the district did not provide the services. In the past 2.5 years, several independent experts examined Eli and found he easily qualifies as hearing impaired. Hearing specialist Gwen Sunan is one of those experts.
I have 3 audiograms that clearly show he has a hearing loss in both ears. So if I look at his audiogram, he has a moderate rising to mild, sloping down to a moderate loss in both ears.
The couple sued the district in November 2019 and again in October 2020 for denying Eli services and for reimbursement for the private instructors and therapists. So far, they say they've spent more than $20,000 on attorney's fees. Summer Steck is a special education attorney and a former teacher. She says disagreements like this occur only in a small percentage of cases, but when they do happen, they can be costly for both families and school districts.
Sometimes, you do wonder how you end up paying all the attorney's fees and all of the other costs, and sometimes reimbursement to families that have paid for these services themselves. And when you look at what it would have cost to just do it in the first place and see if it is in fact what the student needs to receive a FAPE, it probably would have saved a lot of money to do it that way.
San Diego Unified School District spokeswoman Maureen McGee would not comment on Eli's case, citing the pending litigation. She also did not respond to questions about the district's special education policies. Cherie says the final straw came last October after they made one last failed attempt to get services for Eli through San Diego Unified at Lafayette Elementary. The parents said they couldn't wait any longer.
His progression, his progress has been very, very slow. And he is nowhere near age level. He does not have age level language. I would say he's maybe at about two-year-old speech. Yeah. And he's 5.
In November, they enrolled Eli at the John Tracy Center in Los Angeles, which offers full-time in-person instruction for deaf and hard-of-hearing students. The parents rented an apartment in Los Angeles and took turns living with Eli for a week at a time. The couple says they're fortunate to be able to pay for their son's special education, but they can't get back what they lost.
There's no amount of money in the world, I think, that someone could have and still give everything to their child. And, we have resources, but it wasn't enough.
Joe Hong, KPBS News.
Almost half of California teens say they struggle with mental health. That is the finding in a new report released by UCLA's Center for Health Policy Research. According to the data from the center's 2019 report used as a baseline, there is an urgent need to protect the mental well-being of adolescents. Older adolescents and females are 1.5 times more likely to suffer serious psychological distress. 38% of adolescents born outside of the U.S. reported serious psychological distress. Dr. Imelda Padilla-Frausto is lead co-author on the study, and she says the pandemic and post-pandemic statistics are going to be much more severe.
I really am worried about us having the capacity to really handle this. And I think if we don't start doing more early intervention and prevention now, that post-pandemic, it's going to look really bad, and we may not have the providers to provide all those services that are needed.
Padilla-Frausto says socioeconomic factors that lead to poor mental health need to be addressed to get much-needed help to at-risk populations. She says services like telehealth and virtual health services should continue. Big changes are coming for people who inherit property from their parents and grandparents. It's all thanks to Prop 19, approved by California voters last November. KPBS's John Carroll breaks down what you need to know.
If you're going to leave your home or business to your children or grandchildren, February 16th is an important date. That's when certain provisions of Prop 19 take effect.
We're going to see the slim down of the parent-to-child transfer benefit. And so subsequent to that, you can't give your kids a second property or commercial property, part of that family wealth building, but you will be able to pass them your primary residence with a limit of $1 million of market value above what you're currently paying right now.
Children or grandchildren who inherit a home and use it for their primary residence can keep the current tax rate, established by 1978's Prop 13. The lingering effect of Prop 13 is a lot of people who've owned their homes for a long time pay a much lower property tax rate than those who've bought their homes in recent years. If those children or grandchildren don't live in the house, they'll begin to pay today's assessed value, which could be thousands of dollars more. A second provision of the bill takes effect on April 1st.
On April 1st, the seniors are going to get the benefit to transfer their replacement property. So they sell their primary home, they can get a second one, and they can do it 3 times now versus the 1 time allowed under the law.
So under Prop 19, if you're older than 55, as Marks said, you can keep your current tax rate for up to 3 moves. Another provision was pushed heavily in pro-Prop 19 ads. That is, that victims of wildfire or natural disasters can transfer their current rate 1 time. Those ads also touted the financial benefit to schools and local governments and the establishment of a wildfire prevention fund that could receive up to $99 million in the first year and up to $6 billion over the next 12 years. There are other provisions to the law, and it can all get rather confusing. Just ask members of the State Board of Equalization.
We had a lot of constituents calling in, expressing their displeasure with the new law.
Gary Gartner says the board is trying to work out ambiguities in the law with assessors around the state and legislators in Sacramento. To that end, the board is holding a virtual town hall tomorrow at noon.
To just give people the opportunity to better understand the complexity of this law, which is really challenging.
You must pre-register to attend. We have information on how to do that on our website, kpbs.org. Both Gartner and Marks also recommend you speak to your tax professional before February 16th. John Carroll, KPBS News.
And AccuWeather meteorologist Chris Nallen with you. We're talking about lighter winds to end the week after some gusty winds earlier. Dry and mild days will prevail, so do expect a beautiful setup into the weekend. Slightly cooler than average, though, at night, so still get ready for pretty chilly nights here across Southern California. All right, satellite radar perspective, giving you a perspective that is just that, quiet. That's going to be seen all across the state of California. Storm systems are really staying away at this point in time. But we will be talking about chilly and cool stuff into the next couple of nights. Overnight lows into the upper 40s there for the metro. And we'll see a clear sky overhead. How about Oceanside, though? Down to 39, getting cooler around Mount Laguna. Low 40s. Chula Vista there into the middle 40s. All right, future forecast doesn't show much. And the other thing I want you to note here, too, is not only is it clear over land, it's also clear over the ocean. So we're not going to be talking about that morning marine layer. Fog is not going to be here at least for a couple of days. So overall clear starts. That means colder weather, and that's why it will be colder for the time being. At night, that is. But then during the day, we have a nice rebound. High pressure over Nevada. Weak offshore flow there. Mountain snow staying well to the north. For us, wow, beautiful sunny days around Oceanside in towards San Diego. Mid-60s here. But Borrego Springs, yeah, warming up into the deserts in the mid-70s. Some of the better news, it's still very dry across the southwest, but some relief after the recent storms. But now we're back into our dry period, and, well, we can certainly use some more rain, but not anytime soon. You're along the coast. We stay dry over the next 5 days. Inland spots, a little bit warmer. We'll be in the 70s, mid-40s in the overnight, though. Mountainous regions, cool stuff during the day and chilly at night. And how about into the desert? We'll see that sunshine to be nice and bright by Sunday. We'll be in the low 80s. Overnight lows near 50. For KPBS, I'm meteorologist Chris Nell.
With the demand for the COVID-19 vaccine high and the supply frustratingly low, some are taking matters into their own hands. Some people, even down at the Petco Park Superstation, are waiting in a sideline, hoping that with a little luck and a lot of patience, leftover vaccine could be within reach. Camila Bernal found the same just to the north of us in Orange County.
I can help whoever's next.
Those who seek shall find.
Most likely a sore arm.
She is a healthy 51-year-old. He is 49 and not a frontline worker.
How you doing, sir?
And she is 45, also not considered high risk.
And that's it.
California is currently in phase 1B, prioritizing individuals over 65 and frontline healthcare workers. And yet, they got the vaccine.
One extra syringe of vaccine, and that's all I have.
They're known as vaccine chasers.
In addition to following the tiers at the end of the night, we wouldn't waste any vaccine. So we will make sure that all the vaccine that we have goes to good use.
It doesn't always work, but vaccine chasers know that at the end of the night, there may be some leftover doses. And in some cases, their perseverance pays off.
I'm so excited I got the vaccine. I'm relieved.
The Moderna vaccine comes with 10 labeled doses per vial, and if opened, all must be used within about 6 hours or thrown away. Same goes for Pfizer, but with only 5 labeled doses per vial.
What we are finding is each vial gives us about 1 to 2 extra doses.
Some say it takes waiting in line for hours without any guarantees. Others tell us it's all about getting to a vaccine site right as it's about to close.
So the attitude, I think, is just we did not think that we were going to get it, but I think it's worth a shot, rather than having to wait.
The second dose, according to Bill Weston, the director of operations at Care Ambulance, is not guaranteed. But Weston says they are prioritized.
We will do everything in our power to make sure that they get their second dose.
And for the chasers, that promise is more than enough.
I think it's too soon to tell, but I think we're all in hopes that something will happen so that we can go back to somewhat normalcy, at the very least the beginning of it. It's going to take some time, but if we all come together, I think we can make it happen.
There you go.
In Orange, California, I'm Camila Bernal reporting.
And you can find tonight's stories at kpbs.org, and we have a new feature, a map that shows vaccination clinic locations across the county. You'll also find links to make an appointment online if you're eligible. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.